Welcome back for another video. I'm Eharbad, and in today's video, we are looking at the old Fusion warm-up. I say, well, we're looking at the Fusion warm-up. Of course, we're not actually looking at the Fusion warm-up event itself. We are warming up for the Fusion. A subtle distinction, I guess. And anyway, let's just jump straight in instead of waffling on. Basically, we have Ugir the Worm Eater. Wim Eater? Wim Eater or Worm Eater? Not sure. Rimwrath. Wormwrath. Who knows what I'm even saying? Right, anyway, there is the champion graphic. I think the visuals pretty good. I don't normally bother talking about the visuals. They generally do a good job of that. It's really the skill kit and the fusion schedule that sometimes lets them down. Anyway, let's jump straight into my own analysis of the kit and of the champion and its uses. So, A1, we have a single hit with a single buff steal and a 100% when booked chance to put a 2-turn block buffs. I think it's a pretty good A1. It could be useful with a retaliation set, particularly now that that retaliation set only consumes 2 slots for a chance to retail. Block buffs is pretty useful for certain encounters. I'm thinking someone like Leorus or someone wearing Swift Parry. Wrathhead, Mischief Head could also work on a 50-50 chance to potentially steal Stone Skin. So, there are uses, but I definitely wouldn't be relying on it. I wouldn't be picking the champion specifically for it, but it's a nice additional. The A2. AoE hit, so you can weak hit on this, but maybe the A2 will hit for good damage. It's unlikely. I would expect not, but I'm just going to put it out there. There is a chance. You never know. It's I'd say a very good ability, but the buff strip without block buffs it's a bit liable to be short-lived window of opportunity. I've noticed myself when you go up against, say, buff-heavy enemies in Arena, tends to be the case that if you strip them, they usually are able to rebuff pretty quickly. So kind of, you sort of need the block buffs in addition to the strip for it to be kind of ideal. The weaken is pretty nice. The fact that it's an AoE hit means you could trigger counterattacks, resurgent. There's lots of different things that could be triggered as a consequence. It's not always great that it hits. Like Ramantu, for example, is a champion where having the hit is kind of annoying. But I think the best part of the A2 is not actually using it actively anyway, so we'll circle back to that. The A3, it's a good ability, but again, I feel like there's just something a little bit lacking about it. I like increased accuracy. I think it's really good as a progression skill. I really, valued it during the free-to-play challenge series this year. I had it on Razzlevarg, and I used it extensively. And I do like that you get increased defense or attack, depending on what's required in terms of a damage output. But I feel like, where are you really going to rely on this? Maybe as a support for a bomb champion in Arena, this kit kind of reads pretty well. But where else are you really going to use increased defense or attack? Typically, in most long fights, you want, on your attack-based champions, you want increased defense as well as increased attack, because you need that survivability from increased defense. So the only place that this works kind of optimally, in inverted commas, is Arena. And even then, you would prefer to have the increased defense alongside the increased attack to be able to keep the attack-based champions alive, unless you're relying on Netcrit or Stone Skin, something like that. I personally think if this had a triple mechanic, i.e. they gave us both increased defense and attack, then I could see this champion more likely to slot in to, say, Hydra, for instance, or as a triple buffer for use with Seer. It's good. I'm not going to say it's a bad ability. It is good, but I think it does limit the number of locations you're likely to use a champion. Now, really, it's all about the passive. That's what makes this champion unique. It's what makes it interesting. It's the reason to get the champion. It's a potentially a great counter against AoE revivers that revive with buffs, Duchess and Pythian being the main example. There's even someone like Asala the Mourner, someone like that who also has an AoE revive with buff mechanic. It will also work against single target revivers who place buffs, thinking someone like Elva, Siphi, etc., etc. But I'd say the main value comes against the AoE ones. I would say probably someone like Barsatha is better against single target revivers. The aura is good, but it's not all battles, so I have to mark it down for being single use. Probably with the overall kit, the fact that it's arena is the most logical place for it to be, and it's actually the best situation. Overall, it's an interesting skill set, and there's definitely some interesting possibilities. I do have to caveat that I think polymorph is a huge issue. We've got so much chance of triggering polymorph. And the question is, when the passive triggers the A2, does that trigger the polymorph check? My expectation would be yes, but you never know with Plarium's coding. If by some miracle or accident the passive triggering of the A2 doesn't trigger polymorph, then obviously this massively changes the value of the champion. But let's expect that polymorph checks are correctly triggered, whether you use the A2 deliberately or as a consequence of the passive, in which case there's a really high chance that this champion will spend a lot of time polymorphed. You could build the champion with high resistance and high accuracy to try and counter that, but obviously high ranks of polymorph bypass resistance anyway. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to say for certain that you'll actually end up relying on this champion. But definitely, there's a lot of progression accounts where I think that skill set will really come in nicely. And we'll talk about that just now as we enter the area ratings. Now, obviously, I've given the champion top marks for faction wars. I mean, there's no reason not to. Big champion for faction wars, gives you good buffs, strips buffs, puts on block buffs. There's really good synergies across all the skills that will help you to deal with faction war waves. I'm thinking particularly Valk waves. I can't actually remember off the top of my head if Ogun tribes have Valk waves. I'm pretty sure they do, because I'm pretty sure that's why Ugo is so high value. And yeah, this champion will really help against those Valk waves. Also would help against any reviver waves, if there are any. Again, I can't from the top of my head remember. But let's move on to arena, because that's probably the more interesting conversation to be had. In theory, this is a fantastic counter to heavy reviver teams such as Duchess and Pythian. Again, I have to say it, or we said it already when we looked at the skills, polymorph is an issue. And it makes you wonder, is block revive a better option? Is increased skill cooldown a better option? I think the champion will help a lot of players that are progressing through silver in tag team up through lower end of gold in tag team, and will probably help for similar kind of levels in live arena. But when you get to the true end game, the champion's just not going to be used, particularly because the passive doesn't work against, say, Marishka, and you're not really bringing that much to the table that's going to change the meta, to be honest. So it kind of hurts the end game players that aren't uber whales or haven't been super lucky. And it kind of gives progression accounts an interesting way of countering. but it won't change the ultra endgame meta, I don't think. If we move onwards to the next best areas, Doom Tower, good for waves, I think could be an interesting option as a Rotos tank for the Siphi Rotos waves if you're struggling there. Bit of an odd one, but could well work. Is a spirit-based champion. HP based, should be able to build pretty tanky. You have the ability to strip buffs if Siphi does take a turn, and you are in a good position to kind of reduce the impact of Siphi's revive if it gets off. I mean, this is not a strategy that I would recommend in any way, shape, or form, but it could work. I'm just kind of spitballing here about where this champion might have some use outside of Arena. We move on to Hydra. Again, I think decent for progression, but I can't see this champion entering any endgame teams. Just not really bringing enough to the table. There's no increased speed, no decreased speed, no decreased attack, no strengthen, no block buffs. Not really anything that's no AoE block buffs. Not really any of the ultra critical Hydra utility that you need. Kind of a champion that you would want to be good in Hydra, but I just don't see it. I just think it's a luxury. So again, like if you're hitting normal, hard, or even maybe brutal, you could probably find a use for this champion and probably would fit in a number of people's one of the three teams. But if you're an endgame Hydra player, this champion's not coming close to any of your teams, let's be honest. In terms of dungeons, progression, but really offers nothing. Clan boss, nothing. Twins, Shogun, Sand Devil, completely and utterly irrelevant to those areas. And as you can see in the overall summary, I really wanted to give the champion an A-, but I couldn't. I think maybe even B+ was generous in the end once I actually looked at all the different areas. I'm still going to get the champion. Very unique passive. It's always worth collecting champions with unique kits or unique mechanics, partly to future-proof the account and partly for the fun of it. I do think there's a lack of content in the game where this champion shines outside of, as we kind of mentioned, these specific arena fights where some of them might be quite problematic. We're going to kind of have to wait and see how that plays out. That's why I quite like the idea of using the champion in tag team, where you're able to pick and select the matchups you're using, and could definitely use it as a bit of a hard counter in an AoE revive team that doesn't have polymorph and doesn't have high rank polymorph. I think there's definitely use cases there. I think it's a risky pick in live arena unless you're picking it as the 5th champion. And even then, it depends on what's come before. But I don't think the champion has enough of a dynamic nature. You're really picking this champion for one thing and one thing only. There's no cleanse, there's no strengthen, there's no revive. There's a lot of things not being covered from an arena perspective. And that's why I keep saying I think tag team is where you'll most likely find this champion used, where you're fully in control of who you're picking, in what matchups, and you've got complete autonomy over how you manage the fight. Anyway, that is that. Let's jump back into the game, and I just want to cover one more thing, which is this Soulstone Rush. And I haven't really looked into the numbers exactly, but I remember from before that the chances of getting like this number of points it's a lot of shards. But what I did look at is, maybe there's 150 points for 100 gems and 200 energy for use in the fusion. Like that looks decent to me. And I think if I can do that with just pulling, not too many tier 1 soul stones, that's not the worst thing to do in the world. Like what do we actually need? 10 points per small one and 150 points. So we're only looking at 15 shards for that. In terms of the breakpoints, if we wanted to get down to, say, all the way, 3,750, we're looking at, 375 of the small stones, or 37 and a half the big stones, or 7.5 of the eternal soul stone. So it's quite a lot to get down there. But yeah, 150 for just 15 shards. I mean, that sounds like a bargain to me. So I'm definitely going to go for that. So we just do a cheeky 10 pull and then a quick 5. See if we get anything good. Basically, we probably won't, but give it a go anyway. And nothing of interest at all. Let me just click that. So we've got 5 more, and I think that's a really cheap way of getting 100 gems and 200 energy for use in the fusion, and I would happily recommend people to do that. As always, it's your own call, but I think that seems like a good thing to do. Jarang, it's all trash so far. I'm saving them for something good. I don't know what. But the last time I pulled a decent number was when we were going after the 5-star Artak Soul, if I remember correctly. So eventually we'll get something similar in the not too distant future. I'll save that 200 energy for use in the fusion itself. I did do the artifact enhancement event the other day. That's now in my inbox waiting for the fusion as well. I need to try and do a bit of this arena fights after I end the video. So yeah, that's that. The fusion is upcoming in 2.5 days time. I didn't touch the fiery singles path in the end, to be honest. I started going down, then I was like, it's just not worth it. But I think I covered that in the what am I going to do next video. Yeah, that's that. These videos are increasingly unscripted, but I hope they still provide some entertainment, if nothing else. As always, thank you for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye for now.